Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing yet another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from the Netherlands, Dutch language English subs, released in the year 2019, directed by Ludovic Cregens, and this film is called Tailgate. So Tailgate is about a family of four, two young daughters, a mother and a father, who are travelling across the country to visit the father's parents. So the daughters are very excited to see grandma and grandpa again, but unfortunately things don't go to plan when they come across a van on the highway that is going far too slow for the father's liking. So he's beeping the horn, being very aggressive, and this upsets the van driver. So when they catch up with each other further down the road, the van driver wants an apology, but the father is not going to give one. So this is what brings out the psychotic personality in the van driver, and this is what turns the family day out into a family fight for survival. So whether or not the family can get off this highway alive is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Tailgate. This is a very little known film, but I wanted to watch this movie for two very good reasons. Number one, it is a Dutch horror film. Now, I'm not overly familiar with Dutch horror, but when it comes to especially European horror, I'm always looking to branch out. And number two, it's a road rage horror film. Now, this subgenre is a very interesting subgenre because it's a very relatable subgenre, in that although this is a much more exaggerated version being a horror film, it's still elements of a story where you can say to yourself, I can understand that frustration. And sometimes we're so angry behind the wheel that we play things out in our mind that are actually taking place in this specific film. So it's very therapeutic, it's very cathartic, and it's allowing us to relieve all the tension that we have. So it's a very scary aspect as far as road rage is concerned, in that when you're behind the wheel, it's almost like you're possessed by a demon. You're acting very irrational, and things can spiral out of control very quickly. So I really like this subgenre, and to have another movie in it, I thought, all right, well, what is this going to produce? And so when I saw the trailer, I thought it looks very generic. It didn't really inspire a lot of confidence in that it was going to be a great movie, but being that European horror, I was hoping that it was going to provide me with a surprise. But the only thing that Tailgate provided me with was bitter disappointment. I thought as though this was a very mediocre horror film, although I will say that there are positives to the movie, but unfortunately each positive is accompanied by a strong negative that really brings it down. So it's almost like one step forward, two steps back for the entire duration, which is really disappointing. I wanted to love this movie. The production is very crisp looking. I thought as though it was very effective in the shots of the highway. The highway was a very good setting, almost played a character of its own. It was like it was a never-ending journey of torment, and so that was I thought was very impressive. And so I thought the soundtrack was very relevant in actually magnifying that sense of torment, and so it had all the ingredients there to be a really good movie. But unfortunately it's very generic in the way it tells its story. If you've seen Russell Crowe's Unhinged, then you've seen this movie. I thought Unhinged had a lot more bite and a lot more clarity in knowing what it wanted to be, whereas this movie, it was very disjointed and just a complete mess. There were moments of suspense that I thought really worked. There was one scene in particular where you're not quite sure which van is belonging to this psychopath. I'm not going to give too much away. I don't want to give away the surprise, but I thought that was a really tormenting experience, and you'll know exactly what I mean when you see the scenes with all the vans. I thought, all right, well, where is this killer? And it's starting to really play in your mind. And I thought, all right, well, that's really, really good. And there were some other scenes that I thought were really, really good, but they're few and far between, and they just don't gel well off each other. And part of the reason why it doesn't gel well off each other is because the suspense is very inconsistent. It's very disjointed. It relieves itself of the pressure, and so just when it's kicking into gear, it will just take its foot off your throat and allow you to breathe. And so when you're catching your breath, you feel as though you're watching a completely different film. So on one instance you're on the edge of your seat, but on the next instance all of a sudden it felt like a different film where these characters are no longer scared, and I felt as though I was forgetting that I was being pursued by this psychopath. And then you have to be reminded that the psychopath is still in this film, and so it just jolts you into action again. But unfortunately it's stop start stop start. So as far as that story, it just didn't have that consistency in that sense of panic that Unhinged had. So this movie allows you to catch your breath, and then you get back into it and you just feel as though it's just cattle prod sort of cinema. And so that was really, really disappointing. I thought it makes the cardinal sin of having a very unlikable family. So because I didn't fear for them, I could disconnect myself from that situation. And so that was another major issue the movie had. I thought the decisions that these characters made, they were ridiculous, and they were made because the movie needed to progress. So again, again, you know you're watching a movie. And so although it had the relatable qualities of Road Rage, it had the really unrealistic decisions that these characters made, the unrealistic, unlikable qualities of these characters where you know you're watching a movie. So it defeated the purpose of having that relatability within the overall theme that this film had. And I also felt as though the violence was non-existent. And so you want, in these types of movies, really good kills and a really good villain. And I thought the villain was very unimaginative. And so the whole film just lacks that creativity. It lacks that consistency to make it an entertaining horror film, which in the end just made it a really disposable experience. It's an experience that I was just, as I said, bitterly disappointed with, and I'm sure that it is going to bitterly disappoint you as well. So it's not going to come recommended. It's one of the very forgettable European horror films out there. If you want a good road rage horror film, watch Unhinged and skip this one. So overall, for Tailgate, getting this one 1.5 stars, I wouldn't bother. All right, guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.